about the first time someone asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? What did you say? I want to be an athlete, an artist, an astronaut, an awe counter? Me? I was in 5th grade when I was first asked that question. So I told my teacher the truth. When I grow up, I want to be invisible. And your parents thought your dreams were improbable. Mr. Contest Master, my fellow Toastmasters, dignitaries, and guests, when you come from a family small enough that you could hold a reunion at table 5 and have seats left over, you realize sometimes the safest place in life is to hide in your own shadow instead of standing out in the sun and risk getting burned. The fear that I developed when I was a child followed me my entire life, forcing me to hide from my 3 biggest fears: the fear of failure, the fear of success, and the fear of letting people down. As you can imagine, sometimes I got called back to the dark side. Right before I went to college, I had this conversation with my parents. I was so proud. I said, guys, I figured out what I'm going to do with my life. I'm going to become a teacher. My father finally broke the uncomfortable silence. He just mumbled, "I always thought you'd be an accountant." I don't even like math. Well, I don't want to disappoint the man. So just 5.5 years later, I earned that 4-year degree in accounting. I graduated in the part of my class that made the top 70% possible. When the CPA exam forced me into a career in retail management, I said, I'm only going to stay for a couple of years until I figure out what I'm going to do with my life. I never thought it would be my life. But over the next 20 years, something beautiful happened. I became really good at my job. People took notice. When I brought IKEA to Florida, people cheered. Not just because we now had the right to assemble our own furniture, but because I changed the way IKEA hired, led, managed, and developed their people. We were so successful that a year later, my boss was promoted to go work in Sweden for the founder of IKEA. I was so proud of him. And then 3 months later, my new boss called me into her office and said, I am going to give you the greatest gift you can ever receive, the gift of time. Apparently that's the gift you get when you get fired. In an instant, all of my fears came true. I had been successful. I had failed. And I had let a lot of people down. For the next few months, I wandered around aimlessly through this fog, unable to focus, lost, without any direction. People told me that I was crazy. Then one night, as my wife and I sat at the end of our bed, my eyes slowly cleansing my cheeks yet again, she took me back to the debacle that was our rehearsal dinner. That night was the first time in 15 years that my folks have been in the same room at the same time since their divorce when I was in high school. I was having a conversation with me, my best friend, and my mom. My dad sauntered on over, and he said, hey, aren't you going to introduce me to your lady friend? My lady friend? Sure. Dad, meet Mom. Mom, meet Dad. I'm your offspring. Try explaining that one to your new in-laws. But that night, sitting at the edge of the bed, my wife said the most prophetic thing to me. She said, if your dad can forget your mom, why can't you forget this one thing you think defines you? Oh my God. She was right. I'd been so focused on getting fired, I'd forgotten about the path that led me to that point in the first place. As the fog cleared, and I pulled myself out of the shadows I had been hiding in for far too long, I realized it's okay to be afraid. We are all afraid of something. But life demands that we look at that failure, those fears, and overcome them with confidence, conviction. When I look back on my life and I see the faces of all the people I helped, all the people I invested my time in, helping them achieve more than they ever thought they could do, I realize the gift of time is not something we get. The gift of time is something we give. And giving the best of us to someone else is the greatest gift we can ever give. 6 years have passed since that day that I was given the gift of time. And in that time, I started my own business. I wrote and published my first book. And I earned that master's degree that eluded me for far too long. I may not teach in a classroom, but oh, I have become a teacher. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could go back and talk to that 5th grade teacher, I would tell him, when I grow up, I'm going to be courageous. Life is a one-time opportunity. The question is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Mr. Contest.